Oh, hey guys, let's finish working on that snowflake that we've been making. So we got our snowflake here, and I'm out on the stage, and just to review what we've built, this, if I click and drag it, is all one symbol. This is the properties, it's symbol 1. And this symbol has a box around it that is exactly 512 by 512 because I sized it to be that. That's very important. So that when I align it to my stage, center and center, it sticks in the center. If I double click inside of symbol 1, I have more symbols, these guys. And you're probably thinking, what are you doing? You're messing up your beautiful work. But the beauty about how I've set up these symbols is if I align them to the center of the symbol and to the bottom, their registration points are all perfectly on point. And if I rotate them, they rotate perfectly around that center point. And I can do that with each of these. Oops. Well, like I said, I can do that with each of these. Oh, I can't do it with a line. Haha. See, I'm glad I did this. This is a learning opportunity for everyone involved. When I hit the align button, it's thinking of the bounding box. So that's this corner here and this corner here. And it's aligning, like so I aligned to top right here. So this little nub right there is perfectly aligned with the center of the stage. So what I have to do, if I want this to be on dead center, and even this guy probably is not dead center. Aha, he's not. I have to come over here. I have to have the select tool, which is V on your keyboard. And I have to set X to 0 and Y to 0. And if I click on all of these and set 0, 0, then I will get my registration points to be spot on. Now, getting misaligned symbols is like super common, actually. I do it all the time. I'll have like a weird little gap that's only between two of them. So if you're starting to see that, double check and make sure that your registration point is where it should be in the symbol and that everything is aligning perfectly. Now, to get things nice and symmetrical and nice and aligned, I'm going to walk you guys through how to clean up this snowflake so that it is the most perfectly symmetrical work of art that you have ever worked on in your life. Besides yourself, because I know there's lots of nice symmetrical people out there. But we're not talking about people, we're talking about snowflakes up here. Because it's the holidays, dang it. Okay, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to mark this rough. And what I want to do with my rough layer, and this is very important, is I want to select the layer, and I want to hit F8, and turn it into a graphic symbol. Now, with a rough symbol, oh, undo, F8. Oh yeah, I want the registration to be in the center. It's just nice to put it in the center because sometimes I leave it off to the side. It remembers where you put it last, and it's just good practice to put it back in the middle. Okay, anyway. I'm not actually going to work inside of this guy. Whoa, oh, that's trippy. You could do a fun animation with this. Just saying. Animate this one symbol, and it's like, Shurugan, and I might. This is really funky, you guys. This is like, I'm onto some kind of wacky new strat for animation. I just discovered a new form of art. You can see why that's happening, right? Because if I move this in a direction, it moves all of the other counterparts in the same direction, but because they're all rotated, so up for this is this way, but up for that is that way, around, away from the registration point, right? And to the right, they all rotate to the right. That's so, I can't get over that. I can't get over it. I'm just going to spend the whole tutorial doing this stuff. No, I'm not. Okay, the reason why I turned it into a graphic symbol, though, in all seriousness, is so that I could draw on top of it without my art snapping to it. I'll explain what I mean. If I come over here and I draw this beautiful picture, and I'm like, I love it. And then I go on to another layer because I don't want my lines to interfere with it. And I want to clean it up. right? So I'm going to now trace using the line tool, which is N on the keyboard. And I'm going to set my line width down to 0.1 so you guys can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to set my line color to a light blue. Pretty light blue. And you'll see that it's snapping, right? It's like snap, snap. It's like, what if I wanted my line to be just a little to the side of that? It gets really, really frustrating. Pro tip, if you zoom in, the snapping, you can kind of get it a little further away from it if you're zoomed in closer. Whereas if you're zoomed out, the level of detail does not allow you to, like you'll notice like it's much further out before it snaps, right? But if you just want to avoid the whole snapping drama altogether, all you got to do is select this shape, your rough shape, hit F8, turn it into a symbol. What's great about this too is you can also make it transparent with a color effect over here in the properties. Just hit alpha and like just crank that guy down. So it's like easy down there, buddy. You know, I don't want you in my way. It's important at this step to remember you have to switch layers again, right? Because your rough is on this layer. So you got to click on something on the layer you're drawing on or the layer itself to make sure you're doing it right. And now, look at this. No snapping. The line does not snap to the rough at all. It's beautiful, right? So beautiful. Little trick I learned. So now I can leave snapping on so that these ends are snapping to each other, which is what you want, right? Because if I turn off snapping and I try drawing like a thing, I very quickly start getting these little gaps. And then when I want to close the gap, it's like I have to guess. And if I guessed wrong, oh, I guess I nailed it. Usually I don't nail it. If I guessed wrong, then like connecting them together is like kind of weird. And why is it cooperating? It normally doesn't cooperate like this for me. Anyway, snapping's better. That's my point. Delete it. So now that this guy's in a symbol, I can come over here and I can say alpha, oops, not advanced. Alpha 44, 25, super faded out. Cool, so now they're all alphaed out. And then I can lock that layer to make sure I don't ever return. I'm just going to start drawing now. Let's see. Perfectly symmetrical. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's the pro strategy. Center line, you remember this guy, right? If I turn it to outline mode, then it's not fat anymore. You see that? It's just the center line. And with snapping turned on, right here, I can snap to it. Snap to it. And then I can move these lines like so. I'm going to use, let's see. I'm going to use my tools here. I'll snap around the map. So I'm only going to draw half of this guy because I'm lazy and I got to get places. I don't have time to be drawn. See, now this guy is like much smaller than that guy, so I'm not following it exactly. I'm like kind of imagining. You get the idea. And I don't know. Well, let's figure out where should this line be. Yo. So to figure out where that line should be, it's really tricky. All you got to do is copy this guy, the center line, right? And then create a new layer and do a Control-Shift-V. And then, well, there's a few ways to do this, really. Now that I think of it. You don't want to like make that a thin line because thin lines are easier to see. They're easier to use. Go over to transform. You remember that we rotated it a full 60 degrees to get it over to here, so I'm going to rotate that guy 30 degrees. And then if I have snapping turned on, I can grab it by this bottom tip, and it will snap to the bottom tip of that other line, like so. And if I zoom out, and if I delete the rest of it, because I don't need that much of a line, you will see that it is exactly where it needs to be. And I can actually, I'm actually going to hit eyedropper and eyedrop the color of this line, and I'm going to make it the same on this one. And I'm going to snap this guy together. It's a snap. There we go, good snap. Oh, and I can do Control X on that guy, cut it, and Control Shift V, paste it on this other layer. I clicked up on the layer I was in. Now I can delete the little leftover and vada boom, bada bing, whatever you want to call it. I have created the line. Hooray. So now I need the center line, because remember, I can't paint fill this thing because my center line is on a different layer. So I'm going to leave that center line on that layer, and I'm just going to create another one. I'm going to click and drag from the tip, and I'll put it there, and I'll just drag it some more, and I'll spacebar down some more, and then I'll drag it some more. This is really exciting, I know. And then I'll bring it to here. And then I'll hit N again, drag that to there, and that to there. And then this down to here. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, Jason, you didn't trace it. Or at least if that's what you call tracing, it's a pretty bad job. Switch over to the select tool, guys. I'll show you what I'm doing. If you bounce over this line, you'll see the little bow thing, and oh, you can bow that so good. Now, this is a cool tip. If I bow this line in, it's like a pretty even arch. If I grab it in the middle, and then I pull it upward, you see what it does? It makes it longer down here, and then more bowed up here. It's kind of cool. So you can kind of give it some of that swooshy swoop feeling. That's a technical term. And then I'm going to do that over here so that it comes out like so. I don't know if this shape's even very good. Oh, sometimes if it curves both ways, it'll like make it one line like that. So you can just hit N and create a point there, and then do this, and then delete that line. So now there's like a point right there. It's kind of cool. Bow that up, bow that up, bow it up. I can tweak these later. In fact, I probably will tweak these later. That's a promise. I don't know how I'm going to do the doodads, or if I'll even keep them. Alright, so now I can paint fill this guy. If I connected all the dots as I should have. And if I select the outline and double click it, I can hit delete. And now comes the fun part. I can click on this guy, hit F8, turn it into a symbol. I want the registration point to be at the bottom left because that's where this point is, assuming that this line is perfectly straight up and down. Right? If parts of it come out to the side too far or at all, this bottom tippy tip point won't be at the furthest left edge. I hope that makes sense. Hey, okay? How do we do? Yep. We have farthest edge appears to be right there on the left. Good. Good job, team. We won. Hit Q, double click on the center point, hit Control C, Control Shift V. Now, if you followed setting up your hotkeys tutorial, you can do Control 4 and it'll flip it horizontal. If you haven't set up your hotkeys, for shame. Modify, transform, flip horizontal. Right there. If you want to set up your hotkeys, you can either watch the tutorials or you can go to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts, Modify, Transform, flip horizontal, set it to Control 4. After you, of course, have clicked this button called Duplicate Set to create your own unique key bindings. It's good times. Anyway, back to the story. We have created Snowflake. This is a snowflake of some kind. Now the beauty of this guy is all I got to do is edit one half of this thing and it'll edit the entire snowflake. So it's kind of confusing me how it's got the other grayed out version. So I'm going to turn the rough into a guide layer. And I'm going to move it down here because I don't want to look at it. I'm rude like that. Okay, so we got rid of the guide layer. Well, that's a pretty good snowflake. Most adventurers would stop here, but no, not me. Let's continue on. Alright, so if we want to add some flair to this, notice that I got rid of all the doodads except for these guys. That's because these were the original doodads, guys. They're the ones that I liked. They had a bump on both sides. These guys had like a curve and a bump, and they were just adding too much noise. I like it better without it. I don't know, do you guys feel the same way? Leave a comment. Tell me how. Alright, so I can do all kinds of fun things now. Like, if I wanted a gradient, I would hit K for paint fill, and I do a linear gradient under up here. And, I don't know, like, maybe like an icy blue. And then I click and drag. Again, if I hold shift, it's the same as like when I'm creating a line. If I hold shift, it's a perfectly vertical gradient. Look at that, would you look at that? I can do it from the top to bottom or bottom to top. I can double click out to double check my colors, or I can hit Control Enter, which will give me a nice preview of it. So that's kind of cool, like, because you can be like down in here working, you don't have to zoom out and go change other stuff. You can be inside of the symbol and just hit Control Enter and like, oh yeah, I really like how the values are complementing the other values. So sophisticated. Okay, so copy that. I always like to preserve an old version of it. I know it's kind of chicken of me, but I like to have it on hand just in case. And then I can hide it and then do a guide layer on it. Now we learned one thing you cannot do is put like a filter on this thing. So if I create a movie clip now, the center registration point, I cannot come in here. This is so lame, I know. Adobe, please. And do a blur, make it high quality, and then unlock these and then blur it on the Y. Because what happens is, if I hit Control Enter, is you see it blurs vertical when it's vertical, but then it doesn't, like, it's hard to see. I do like 20, yeah, like really blur it vertically. Like, I don't know why you'd want that vertical. You'll notice it just does it vertical for everything. I mean, come on. Like, it should radiate out from the middle. Still looks cool, I know, it still looks cool, but I just wish it would blur out from the center in every direction. Not so much to ask. So you can go into Photoshop and you can actually do a radial blur if you go Filters, Radial Blur. Filters, blur, radial blur. You get the idea. But alas, alack, cannot do it in here. Hit undo a bunch of times. Take it back to where you were. Okay. Let's talk about shapes. Oh, I don't want that in a symbol. Ew, too many symbols. There we go. All right, so I got my duplicate down here on layer 1, so I'm good to go. I can mess this guy up. Carefree, right? That's the goal, is to have your artistic freedom. Do all kinds of stuff with this guy. Yeah. See how it's just symmetrical? Symmetry is strong with this one. Whoa. I don't know, I don't always do this kind of style. It's sort of, I don't know, symmetrical. I like to add a lot of flair and flavor, so I like to have nice, big, simple shapes too. But it's kind of fun every now and then to break from that. Kind of cut loose. Now you're probably wondering, oh, I like it. But it looks bad now. Okay, but it looks good. You see how this side looks like it's lit different from that side? You want to do something like that? You're in luck. If I double click out here, there's a cheap and dirty way to do it. If I click on this half here, I can come over to Advanced, and I can play around with these numbers. Now, Flash does not have a visual interface for this, unfortunately. Adobe, please, give me a color picker. This color picker up here does not work for these color selections down here. But what I can do is I can take away red, I can take away green, and I'm going to leave blue. If I click off of it, you'll see that it just got darker. It's like a more saturated, darker blue, which is pretty sweet. That's what I want, right? I hit Control Enter. It's like, wow, instant awesomeness. Now, the downside to this, there's a couple of downsides. is number one, if I want to add like special highlights on just this side, if I try to go in here and I'm like, okay, so I want on a new layer, I want a white highlight here. Well, you instantly notice, first off, it's giving you a highlight over here as well, which is maybe not what you want. And if you come back out, it's not actually a white highlight because the whole thing is tinted, remember? So that's the downside. And I wish, this is the part where I tell you guys I'm sorry, because I wish there was an easy way to like modify this on the fly but keep the same silhouette. But what you gotta do, hit undo, come back out here. I'm gonna actually say none on that, so I get rid of the advanced color filter. Instead, I'm gonna right click on this guy, just this half right here, right? And on that half, I'm going to come down here on the menu to duplicate symbol. Symbol 5 copy. Perfect. Now I can come inside of this guy and I can click on the gradient and I can say I want that darker, more saturated blue, whatever the heck it was. It wasn't actually that much darker. Yeah, that was it. And that's cool because then it fades off to the white in the middle. So now if I double click out here, you can see like they're fading to the same white down here, but as they come up, they're kind of differentiated. If I hit Control Enter, it's kind of cool actually, right? A little more custom than that. Also, I can go inside of here, and if I add that little highlight that I wanted before, ew, not a linear gradient, no, pruning. Oh my gosh, never paint with the linear gradient. Okay, there we go. So I add that little highlight and I double click out here, it's not changing the color because obviously the whole symbol is not tinted. Oh, I just budged the whole thing. Notice when you budge something it can mess you up, so be careful not to accidentally flick it like that. Flick. It's bad. Don't do it. I'm liking where this is going, you guys. It's a good looking thing. So, I mean, you get the idea, right? Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, well, now they're not the same symbol, right? So if I make all these edits over here that I really like, and you know, there's all these good silhouettes, and it's like this is just gorgeous and it's perfect. These look terrible, really. But say you want these same dots to be over here now, right? It's like, dang it, it's a duplicate symbol, so it's not putting them over there. Fear not, because you can actually click here, which will select all these little beautiful works of art that you've created. I can do Control C. Remember Control Shift V would paste them in place? Well, guess what? If I go inside of this symbol and I hit Control Shift V, it will paste them in place. Now you're probably asking, how the heck did they get flipped? Well, you will recall when we did that Control 4, flip horizontal, the symbol was flipped. The contents of the symbol were not flipped. Let that sink in a little bit. So the symbol, when I hit Control 4, in the stage outside of it, or the symbol outside of it, is saying, okay, flip this instance of it. But the little guys inside never were affected. I mean, to illustrate this, I mean, we can just come over here, click on this guy, you can right click on him and say, swap symbol, switch him back to symbol 5. Now they're identical, right? They're the same symbol, they're an instance of the same symbol. And if I grab this guy and move him to the right, it moves his counterpart to the left because it's flipped. I hope that's clear. If not, I'm sorry, I tried. I tried to explain it and I failed. Sorry. Swap symbol back to the copy because I love that color. Yeah, nice color. What's fun about this is, like, if you want, out here inside of the symbol it has both of these guys inside of it. Whoa. I can also come in, you know what, I actually hate those lines. Delete and delete. Okay, I can come out here and in a different layer or whatever, I can say I'm gonna paint me some highlight in here, all fancy like, right? This is cool, right? I'm just drawing a line up the center is all I'm doing, but yeah. So you can like, you know, add overlays out here and it's like pretty sweet. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, Jason, that's a crappy highlight because look up here and down here, hello. And I would say hi first. How are you doing? And second, I would say, let's fix that. So this line is what? 1.9 pixels thick. Let's make it 2. Even 2. I can click on this line, and also when I set up my quick keys, you may recall that I set Control 2 to convert lines to fills. Now, if you look at this, if you just look at it, and I turn this into outline mode, you can't see it because it's the same color. The outline is no longer a line down the middle, because when it was a line, it went down the middle. Now it's converted that line to a fill. It does exactly what it says. So this is an actual fill. Say hi, fill. It's a fill. Which means I can take my fill. Oh yeah. I don't know. Probably didn't need to do that. You can figure it out. But you get the idea. Now it's a fill. What that means is I can erase. You're probably thinking, oh no, you're erasing your symbol. No, I'm not erasing the symbol because symbols are protected from erasing because they're inside of a container. But this guy here, he ain't protected. I can come through here and erase, and erase, and erase. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, you could have made it symmetrical. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. But not everything can be symmetrical. Maybe I want to leave some elements, like, kind of, you know, whatever. I don't want to talk like this. Okay. Oh. Cool. I'm going to hit Control Enter. Yeah, look at that pencil shred of paper thin thing. That looks terrible. Okay, let's fix it. Let's make it not look terrible. It's too thin. Give it some meat. It can be thin when the going gets thin. Aha! I just made a mistake. Can you see the mistake I made? I'll show you the mistake I made. I was on the wrong layer. This layer, which I should label left and right, contains my two doodads. But now, because I drew on it, it also contains my drawing line, which you can see represented by this squiggle. If I hide the layer in front of it, you can see this nice brush stroke here. But if I turn these on, it disappears. The reason why is because symbols always sort in front of brush strokes and paint fills and that sort of thing. So if I click and drag this guy away, I can see my brush stroke because it's behind. But it's just a lowly paint fill, you see. Even if you paint it after the symbol was already created, it will sort behind any symbol that's there. Unless you turn it into a group. Groups can sort in front. If you hit Control G, it'll turn into a group. Or F8, of course, turning it into a symbol. The most recent symbol will be in front of the other previous symbols. So because it's there, and because I love it so much, I made the perfect brush stroke and I want to keep it, I can turn on outline mode. And I can actually select this brush stroke in outline mode. It's kind of confusing looking, but that's the brush stroke selected. And I can hit Control X, and then I can unhide this layer, go to the layer that I want, and do Control Shift V. And I know I did it right because it's no longer a pink outline. It's on the correct layer. But I'm going to lock that layer, man. That guy messed me up not having it locked. Ooh, I can barely see. I have to fill these in first before I turn that back on because I couldn't see where I missed. All right. I don't know. I'm kind of imagining. So if you think of this in terms of like a real snowflake blade, whatever we're making, these inner lines are going to kind of mimic the outer edge, right? But not completely. I mean, the key is I want the thickness of this edge to kind of taper in when the thickness of the overall snowflake tapers in. So its thinnest points should be around the same spot where the snowflake is thin, right? That's why it's so thin right here, but then I should probably broaden it out just a little bit up here. Something like that. And for this exercise, I'm kind of leaving it organic because I like to go organic. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, organic is good for you. Because I'm not trying to follow it literally. I mean, I guess if you wanted to literally follow the edge, you could be like, and then it comes in, and then it goes out, and then it does this. And like, that's one way to do it, I guess. It kind of looks kind of cool. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's kind of cool looking. But this looks cool too. There's more than one way to draw a snowflake. So anyway, you get the idea. You can continue painting out here on top of both of the symbols. You can unlock that layer. You can go down inside of the symbol. You can now paint something in here that you really like. And if it's really awesome and you want it to be on that other guy, you can copy it, double click out, double click in, and Control-Shift-V to paste it in place. And now you've got it in two places at once. And you can admire the beauty of what you have created. I actually like that. I'm going to come in here and do something similar, create a little shape right there. Copy that. Paste it in place. Bada bing. We have ourselves a snowflake. There you go, guys. Well, happy holidays. Enjoy making your unique snowflakes that I'm sure are going to be as unique as you are. Feel free to post links to your amazing snowflakes in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you have a good winter time, or if you're south of the equator, nice, warm, balmy holiday season. And I hope you guys learned something.